Hello and good afternoon. Let's give some time for the viewers to join in. So please bear with us for 2 minutes and we will start after. Good afternoon to all our viewers and welcome to another segment of Education on Air. I'm Tilini from Entrepreneur.MD, and as promised in his earlier webinar, Naren Arulraja, founder and CEO of Equa Marketing and Entrepreneur.MD, is here to educate you on local search, search engine optimization, and Google Places for doctors. If you have any questions for Naren, please press the Q&A bubble on the screen and post your questions. After Naren completes his presentation, I will forward the questions to him. Hi Naren and welcome. It's nice to have you with us on Education on Air, and it's over to you, Naren.
Thank you very much, Tilini. Hope you can see my screen and you can hear me clearly.
Yes, Naren.
So thank you and welcome everyone. We are having a series of webinars as Tilini talked about. We already had an overview webinar that kind of talks about at a 10,000 foot level, the things you need to pay attention to. This is the second out of 5 webinars, and today's webinar is going to focus on local search, search engine optimization, and Google Places for doctors. And all of this comes from our years and years of experience taking care of more than 200 doctors. We are a full-service firm with 150 staff, and we have a very high ratio between staff and clients. And the reason is we take on some of the toughest and clients in some of the challenging markets, and we put a lot of effort into each client. And we're very proud of the fact that 90% of our clients stay with us year after year after year, which is unheard of in the marketing space. So all of what you're going to hear from me today is basically things we have learned and we continue to learn with regards to local search, specifically search engine optimization and Google Places. In subsequent presentations, we'll talk about things like analytics and social media and branding and so forth, and we'll get to what the upcoming presentations are before we finish today. So if you have any questions, feel free to share it with Tilini. I believe there's a bubble you can use. There's a way for you to do that through Google Hangout, and then I'll get to it at the end of the presentation. To summarize what we touched on in the last meeting, I want to make a couple of key points. The first point that we made, and I think it's important for everybody to understand, is the world fundamentally changed since internet and since Google. In the old days, we as a species didn't have a lot of information about things. We would rely on things like yellow page ads or a billboard we see, and then we would call the business, and that business, whoever answered the phone, would answer all of our questions and hopefully convince us to come in and make an appointment to come in and see the doctor. Now, obviously, that world changed because for the very first time, the internet and specifically sites like Google gave people the power and the control to ask questions and use those questions to make decisions. So in the old days, marketing was, ads, many ads, billboards, thousands of people seeing it. And the theory was that at any given time, 3% will need your service. So as long as you're hitting enough people, it's a numbers game, and the guy with the biggest budget won. Now things have totally changed, and typically the guy with the biggest budget doesn't win. Who wins is the person who helps people buy, who shows up when people are doing research, and who has a stellar reputation. So internet marketing is all about helping people buy as opposed to selling things to them by interrupting them. So we also touched on in our last presentation about this concept called zero moment of truth. For those of you who haven't heard the last one, just to recap, the idea is that before the internet, again, there was the first moment of truth, which is the first time somebody hears about your brand, typically through an ad. And then there was the second moment of truth, which is typically when they first talk to your salesperson, either in person or over the phone, in your case, maybe the receptionist. And then the other moment of truth is when they start actually interacting with your brand. In other words, they have purchased the product or service and now they are experiencing your business. So marketers paid attention to those moments of truths, but internet changed it because for the very first time it gave people a tool where they can do research. So there's a new moment of truth called the zero moment of truth. That's when people are asking questions, they're thinking about something, and they're researching it. For example, let's say I have, I have a bad smile, and I'm starting to research, what are my options, and I start realizing I could maybe look into veneers or implants or whatever the case might be. And then when I start doing research, in the beginning I might just try to learn about the topic and learn about what my options are, and then I start getting deep. Maybe I've decided I want veneers, so I start researching veneers and now learning more about the cost and the pros and the cons and how it works. And at some point I'm thinking about dentists I can look at, and I start reading reviews, and I start looking at before and after pictures, and I start watching videos on their websites through my mobile device. So that's the zero moment of truth. So internet marketing, a lot of it is about how do you play in that zero moment of truth when people are researching and asking questions. So you might be sleeping or you might be on vacation, but some person out there is interested in your product or service in your local market, and how do you make sure you show up? How do you make sure you manage your message? And how do you convince them to come in and see you? We also at a high level talked about reviews and the impact of mobile devices, social media, and so forth. So in today's presentation, we're going to go real deep with regards to search engine optimization and Google Places. And then in the upcoming presentations, we're going to touch on some of the other topics that's highlighted here. If there's one thing I want you to remember about the slide, it's the idea that internet marketing is about helping your market buy. So we talked about mobile, so I want to make a quick point here. In 2007, iPhone was introduced. Before then, 90% of us had dumb phones. So phone was a phone. It pretty much, for the most part, allowed us to make phone calls. But now, since 2007, 90% of Americans use smartphones. Almost half of it is iPhones, and 55% is Android-based smartphones. Could be Samsung, could be HTC, etc. So in 2007, people used Google 1 billion times a day. Today, people use Google 6 billion times a day. So what changed between 2007 and 2014? Obviously, the introduction of the smartphone and how computers started becoming a tool people started carrying with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It wakes you up as an alarm, and then it stays with you all throughout the day, checking your calendar, checking your emails, talking to Google, looking up directions, you name it. It started becoming a part of our lives. So what happened is that people started using computers more, and search engines like Google more. That's why it went from 1 billion a day to 6 billion a day. And also these devices got smarter, right? Because these devices now know where you are located, because almost all of them have GPS built in. These devices track your search history, so So they know exactly what you did 2 seconds ago, 2 days ago, 2 months ago, and now they can give you better answers based on what you did in the past. Also, the people who created these devices realized that people want different answers depending on the device. For example, if you're sitting in front of a very big screen, it's very conducive to read long articles. But if you have a small screen, videos make better sense. Reading a couple of short reviews make better sense. So search itself changed and search itself evolved. How people use it changed and how people use it evolved. So a lot of the things I'll be touching on is, what is the world today? Where are we today? And how do we get the most out of it as marketers to maximize, return on investment from internet marketing? So what is local search? What is SEO? I'm sure you all know what SEO stands for, which is search engine optimization. Pretty much the idea is that when people are doing research about something you do, how do you make sure you are the one who shows up again and again and again and again, not just for one or two phrases, but hopefully hundreds of phrases. And not just on page 3, because most people will never go past page 1, but hopefully near the top of page 1. So that's kind of, what search engine optimization and local search is. Obviously, like I said, things have evolved, so we're going to get into that. So 3 big trends that I notice, and I think we all need to pay attention to, is location has become an important piece. Now, like I said, every device knows where you are based on technologies that's built into our devices. So they use that information to customize results. Also, reviews have become a huge part of how people make decisions. Like 9 out of 10 people will not choose a dentist or a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon without reading reviews. So now that Google realizes that pretty much whether it's a restaurant meal for $20 or whether it's a doctor that somebody's looking at, people pay a lot of attention to reviews. So as part of the search algorithms, as part of SEO, Google starts paying attention to things like all different review sites, review profiles you have on so many different sites. Are all the information consistent? For example, the name, the address, the phone number. That's what NAP stands for, name, address, phone number. And like, for example, some of our clients, I'll show you a quick example here. This is one of the reports for one of our clients who has been with us for a long time. We are currently managing 11 review sites and 31 online profiles for him. He gets a ton of visitors. He gets 3,783 visitors to his website, and he was seen by 8,554 times outside of his website through things like Google Places in just 1 month. His name is Dr. Siegel, and he's our very first client, so we do a lot of work for him. He's in Chicago, and he ranks for 1,232 keywords. And on page 1 of Google, and out of that, he's in the top 3 spots for 617 keywords. Anyways, so we manage 44 profiles for him. Now, obviously, when we start working on a particular client, we won't be managing 44. We'll start with 3: the Google Places, Yahoo Local, and Bing Local, the top 3. And then as time goes along, we add more and more profiles. Why is this important? Because the more profiles you have and the more you take care of those profiles, the more traffic you're going to get from each one of those many profiles. Plus, it's going to influence your search results, because NAP, name, address, phone number, consistency across these profiles is a big part of search algorithms these days. Another thing that's really important, like I touched on, is reviews. So, not only do you want to maximize your benefit for SEO and for direct visitors from all these different sites, but you also want to make sure that the reviews are being monitored and managed. So, for example, if you have negative reviews, what do you do about it? Somebody should notice that you have a negative review. And we, for example, do that on behalf of our clients, and then we work with our clients to address negative reviews. And also, how do you work with your happy patients to get positive reviews? So, how do you because if you don't, just like health and wellness, if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't take care of it, your health and wellness is going to suffer. So same way, with reputation. So if you don't have a strategy and a focus around how do I build my positive and consistent reputation online, you're not going to have a positive and consistent reputation. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. So if I go to Google and I type in Dr. I'll pick one. This particular client is in New York City. We work with. He's a dermatologist. He's doing amazingly well. When I type in his name, I see 5 stars. So he has 5 stars. He has 19 Google reviews, and it's directly linked to his bio page on his website. And obviously that's great because 9 out of 10 people will Google his name, and we look at the keywords people are Googling, and we know for a fact there are hundreds of people who Google his name every month. And when they Google his name, this is what they see: 5 stars, 19 Google reviews on Google. 5 stars, 4.9 stars, 58 reviews on Health Grades. 5 stars, 31 reviews on Real Self. 5 stars, 1 review on Yelp. So when they see something like this, the chances of them saying no is very, very, very slim. So it's really important to manage this reputation and manage online reviews. Going back, personalized search. This is the other key thing. See, now Google will tell you what's your average rank for a particular keyword, because Google realizes and understands that the search results are very different person to person based on 3 factors. Number 1 is your location. So if you're located, let's say, close to your house right now, and you type in Italian restaurant, and you drive 20 miles and you type in Italian restaurant, you're going to get totally different answers. Why? The location of where you are matters, because Google realizes people are going to drive 20 miles when they have a restaurant that has better reviews 2 miles from them at the current time. So location changes results, so you need to keep that in mind. But you also need to realize how to focus. So using Google Analytics, you can find out. I'm going to show you an example here. So I have my Google Analytics screen open, and I'm going to click on one of our clients who we work with. And for example, if I go down, it'll tell you, how many people are coming to his website and all of that stuff. He has, 3,000, which is pretty much a lot for a dentist. And you can even see things like, devices, so what device is driving traffic. So desktops are driving 2,100 people, so that's 55% of the overall traffic. Mobile is driving 1,300 people, 35%. Tablets are driving 10%. So almost 45% of the traffic is coming from non-traditional PCs. It's important for you to know, because if you have a website that's not optimized for a mobile device, you're going to not get the most out of those visitors who are not coming, the 45% who are not using a PC. So we use a technology called responsive mobile technology, and I'm going to get into that. And this way, the site is optimized and looks great on different devices. So a site on a mobile device will almost look like an app. On the other hand, a site on a PC will definitely take advantage of the big screen and show different things, even though the site underlying is the same. And that's what the responsive mobile technology does. So again, if I go under the acquisition part, I can even figure out, search engine optimizations. What are the keywords that's driving traffic? So for example, in the monthly report I was showing you, we, for example, track those keywords for our clients, and then we show it to them. So here is another client of ours we work with. She gets 1,000 phone calls a month from internet marketing. And she's on the first page for 340 keywords on Google alone. And then she's in the top 3 spots for 164 keywords. 70% of the people click on the top 3 keywords. And that's really, really important when it comes to marketing. So when I come down, 1,043 people, the phone calls are all tracked, and the keywords are listed here. So when I come down here, dermatologist in Kearney, New Jersey, right? So 35 people type that keyword in, dermatologist, Montclair, New Jersey, 170 people type that keyword in, and the average position is #1. So you want to know what are the keywords that are driving you traffic, and all of this data comes from Google Analytics, and what's your average position. So even though the positions can fluctuate, like I alluded to, based on 3 factors: the location, the device, and the search history of the person, you want to know what's your average keyword position for that particular keyword, because now that will allow you to prioritize. Like, for example, this client is ranking for 300 keywords, and most of it, like 80% of it, is in the top 3. But there are some keywords that she's not in the top 3 for. So we want to go and find out what those keywords, and we want to work on it so we can move it up in the rankings. So so you need to, as a doctor, be looking at all of these factors on a monthly basis to see where you stand. What are the hundreds of keywords you're ranking for? How popular are those keywords? For example, the keyword dermatologist, 900 people typed it in, and these people obviously didn't use the name of the city, but Google knows based on location they were looking for a dermatologist, close to Dr. Downey, so it was showing her most of the time for that particular keyword. Coming back here to my presentation, what should you want? So really, from an SEO standpoint, you want to rank for as many keywords as possible. You want to get as much traffic as possible, both from SEO itself plus through Google Maps and other Google products. And then you want to track all of those things and measure the effectiveness. So, for example, some of our clients, especially in dermatology, who have been with us for several years, now get 500, 600, even 1,000 phone calls a month. So that tells you how effectively online marketing is working for you. Now, on the other hand, if it's not working for you, for a dentist, I'm pretty happy seeing 60, 70 phone calls, just because the competition is a lot larger, and so you're not going to get as much volume as you would if you were a dermatologist. But still, you want to maximize results, and you want to get the most return on investment from your marketing dollars. So you need to track all of these things, and the visitors, the keyword rankings, the backlinks, the traffic, the phone calls. So when you show up, what do I mean by dominating? What do I mean by showing up for many keywords? So I'm going to go back to Google again, and I'm going to type in Botox, New Orleans, right, as an example. So you see ads, and ads obviously will change depending on where you're located. So it's showing me ads for Toronto, but because I typed in Botox, New Orleans, because I'm looking for somebody in New Orleans, the very first result is Dr. Mary Lupo. She's one of our clients, and she ranks for, again, hundreds of keywords. So you want to be the first one here, because we know 35% of the people will click on the first result. Also, she's on the map, and she's #1 on the map. So again, all of the people who are going to click on the maps, it's a good chance 35% will click on her because she's the very first one. So you want to maximize this, and you don't want to just do this for one keyword like Botox. You want to do it for so many keywords, both related to Botox and other procedures. Let's say I type in dermatologist, right? That's obviously a popular keyword. Again, she's #1. Above the maps, and she's #1 on the maps. Also, she has a 4.2 star review, and that's something we can work with her on and as staff on to improve, and we can really work on that. And all of the information is showing up. The phone number is showing up, office hours are showing up, all of these are showing up on the right-hand side. So people can easily, click on that button and make that phone call, or find out that she's closing at 5, and really engage with the business. Where to show up for? So again, you need to pay attention to your Google Analytics and see how people are finding you. Like I was showing you before, one of our clients, is getting 55% of his total visitors through PCs and 45% through tablets and mobile devices. So you need to look at your Google Analytics or a very detailed monthly report from whoever is doing your marketing to see where you are ranking. And also, you need to make sure those are mapped so you can compare month to month how things are changing or improving. How do you know you're showing up? Look at analytics, because Google will tell you across all of their devices what are the keywords that you're ranking for and what's your average position. right message. And here also it gets very interesting. If you notice, I was showing you Dr. Ron Shelton. Now, if I were to type in, like when I typed in Dr. Ron Shelton, his bio page is showing up, and he has 5 stars. So there are things called rich snippets and structured data that we can use to make this happen, right? So we want to make sure the stars are showing up and it's linked to the bio page. So authorship tag is when the picture shows up and you do a search. And again, studies have shown that when the picture or logo shows up, people click on it a lot more. And for example, we typically only hire people with at least a bachelor's degree in computer science to work on websites, and we use things like HTML, not third-party sites like WordPress, because those are not very powerful, and therefore we are able to do many of these things perfectly. So there's a very good chance you get the most in terms of all of these technologies that Google is making available to webmasters. We talked about Google reviews. See, I see some clients who get thousands of people from Google reviews every month, meaning people are driving on the street and they use Google Maps to look up reviews and look up directions and location and all kinds of stuff. And some people get 50 people just through Google Maps every single month. That's 50 new patients. So obviously not everybody's going to get that much, but depending on your city and your location, Google Maps and Google reviews could be a huge asset for you if you know how to make the most out of it. And there are a few parts, like we talked about. Google is notorious for creating issues. So it will create duplicate listings. So to stop that from happening, you need to clean up your profiles. You need to make sure that your names are consistent across all the different places on the internet. So this way, Google doesn't think it's 2 different businesses, because there are some inconsistencies between name, phone number, and address. Then you need to monitor it. Even with all of that, you will still get duplicate listings. And when a duplicate listing shows up, claim the profile, merge it, or delete it. You have to sometimes request a PIN code. So there's a lot of work involved. But we have a dedicated team, for example, that just becomes really, really good at taking care of these types of issues. But if you do take care of Google reviews, it can be a huge asset for your business, and we have seen it, time and again. We already touched on rich snippets and structured data, so that's how we link, for example, the 5 stars with the web page. So somebody might be Googling, like I was showing you before, Botox, and it's linking to the Google reviews page. And when it's linking to the Google reviews page and the person sees 4.2 stars or 4.9 stars, they're much more interested in learning more about that doctor who can do Botox, who has amazing reviews. So by using things like structured data and we can make all of these things happen. Is SEO right for you? That's a great question. I think SEO, for example, is great for businesses, or doctors who provide at least some cash pay medical services. Like, for example, most of our clients, I would say 70% are dentists, and maybe 30% are plastic surgeons and dermatologists. We also have quite a few OBGYN clients and a few hair transplant clients. So anytime you're doing large procedures, where it's lucrative for you, SEO makes sense, because the amount of hours you're going to invest will turn back into a significant ROI. So I have clients who went from 0 to $1 million, even $2 to $3 million in a 4 to 5 year period from internet marketing. So, and that's because, when you dominate a market and you are the one who keeps showing up again and again and again for hundreds of keywords, that then translates into 50, 100, even 1,000 phone calls, depending on your market, which then translates into a very positive business, right? So SEO is great for clients who are in certain types of medical services, cash pay type, and even insurance-based medical services, where, per procedure fee is, at least a few $100s, if not more. But SEO may not be, great for a family doctor. I'm not sure, but it may not be as effective because, maybe the numbers are small, or the way people find a family doctor is different from the way they find somebody for veneers or implants, or breast implants, or Botox. So you have to think, one of the things that we offer, for anybody who's attending this webinar, or who anybody watch this video, is a free digital marketing strategy review. So we literally would go through and look at your marketing today, look at your competition today, and then come back with a plan and tell you what can be done, how long it's going to take, and what, and the steps and the duration and so forth. So it's a very comprehensive review that tells you where you are and where you can go. Now, some of the clients that we work with, make $30 to $40, for every dollar they spend on digital marketing, especially organic digital marketing. So it can work for some people amazingly well. I mean, no other type of investment typically would give that type of returns. So it can work for some people extremely well. So what are the SEO basics? And I'm going to go through that. There are three main things, right? First is the site has to be set up properly. And I'm going to show you what we do when we set up sites. You need to have original content. So we spend a lot of time making sure that our clients get 100% original content. We focus on what's called external SEO. That's what happens outside of your website. So those are the three key things. So let me kind of walk you through that. So this is kind of what we do for our clients, and it kind of gives you everything that's important today, because this page gets updated on a monthly and sometimes quarterly basis based on what's happening with Google and other players out there. So we spend approximately 200 hours building a custom designed website. We audit the old site because we don't want to lose any rankings you already have. We do keyword research to understand, based on your interests and your needs, what you want versus what's lucrative. And because we work with only doctors, we really have a lot of experience, in Equa to maximize, returns and focus on the things that matter. So based on all of that, we do our keyword research and the keyword map. We believe in doing things custom because Google punishes people for things like duplicate content and so forth. So even our web designs are custom done. And the other thing that I believe is if you try to be like somebody else, at some point people are going to get disillusioned. So don't try to copy somebody else, be authentic. So if people keep coming back to you because you are honest and you're very thorough, you know what? That's what you should talk about. That's what you should emphasize in your marketing. Don't try to be like the spa or something else. And I mean, if that's spa is you, then be the spa. But don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to create a site that looks like somebody else's site. Try to create a site that's consistent with who you are. So that's why we believe in custom design. We have a series of meetings in the go live process, as we call it. And a lot of those meetings are aimed at bringing out those key attributes, key things we need to focus on. And because we've done it, for more than 200 times and are really good at, making clients happy and keeping them for life, we have best practices that we have baked into our processes. Create the content, focus on conversions. No point getting 1,000 people coming to your website when nobody picks up the phone and calls. So when you do call tracking, you will know that, and that's something we believe in and we do as part of our holistic program. But when that happens, there's an issue. Maybe you don't have enough testimonials. Maybe the page doesn't have a call to action. Whatever the issues are, we focus on finding it and fixing it, because if the entire process is not optimized, the bottom line, the phone calls, the new business is not going to be optimized. So you need to really focus on the entire process. Obviously, SEO is a big part of it, but that alone is not enough. Conversions is important. Setting up the website, launching it, like I talked about responsive mobile sites. More and more and more people are using the internet through mobile devices. In some cases, 45%, in some cases, 50%. And that percentage keeps growing. So if your website looks awesome and easy to use on a mobile device, you're going to lose a lot of business. So we use that technology. We typically spend a lot of hours, excess of 200 hours building a site properly. And a lot of that cost we end up, taking that over because, a lot of clients realize that they don't make money on day one. So we end up eating a lot of that cost because most of our clients, 90% of them stay with us for life. So this is really what I talked about in my key point. Build the site properly, do it properly. Don't, because if your foundation is wrong, everything else you're going to do is not going to help you the most. And then focus on search engine optimization. So external SEO. So like I talked about, there are two additional things you need to do when it comes to SEO basics. One is what happens outside of your website and what happens within your website. What happens within your website is things like new content. So we, for example, believe in 100% original content. So we have writers who we research, we work with doctors, and we, what do you call, and listen, like record their calls and so forth, and use that information to write, compelling articles. That's important for SEO and conversions. We also focus on external SEO. So link building, social media bookmarking, external blogs, reputation management, and NAB consistency. These are all really, really, really important. So for example, monitor your links. If there are bad links, get rid of them. So there are various tools we use to do that on a weekly basis. There are better quality links, social media bookmarking sites like, Stumble Upon and so forth, if done correctly, can give you a lot of benefit from an external SEO standpoint. External blogs, again, if done properly, can give you a lot of benefit. And so it's not just a question of numbers, it's also a question of quality. So getting rid of bad links, working on high quality links, and doing it week after week, month after month is extremely critical. Some people think having a website is enough. It's not. Website is just the foundation, and again, doing it properly is important, but then you have to do these things on an ongoing basis: the external SEO stuff, the new content, the modifications to the website. So we believe in the idea of investing a certain number of hours every month on behalf of all of our clients. Some clients we invest minimum 35 hours, other clients we invest 250 hours plus. Again, depends on competition and the goals of the business. The good news for somebody in a big city is there's a bigger market. The bad news is there's more competition. So always, you have to keep that in mind as you develop your strategies and plans, and figure out what you can expect and what you can't. Another thing that we'll touch on later on is social media and lots of the other things we do, but today I'm not going to focus on it. So I just looked at the SEO part of what we do in today's meeting, because a lot of people ask me, okay, SEO is great, it drives a lot of business, but what do we need to do? So just to summarize again, it's getting the website built properly. We believe in doing it using original content, original design, spending at least 200 hours. Then working on external SEO, we believe in putting in at least 60 to 70% of the hours into that effort, week after week, month after month, and having enough hours. Also content, original content, so writing original content articles, keeping your website fresh, adding new pages to it, updating it. Those are all important when it comes to SEO. Another key thing that I want to point out is, have a plan, have goals. Like, so for example, I was just looking at the report for this particular client, and if you notice, we mapped the call volume month over month. So for example, in the month of February, she got 657 calls, and a total of 754 people contacted her, either through the contact form or directions. But in May, that number is 1,043 calls and a total of 1,100 people. So you want to know how things are evolving and changing, and you want to work on what matters. Like sometimes a certain procedure might be worth 4 times as some other procedure, so you may want to focus on that. So so going back to one of the things we do for our clients is we do this detailed monthly report. And we also focus on having a 6-month plan and a quarterly meeting to review how well things are going. Another mistake I see people making is they don't have plans. They just put it on autopilot. And when you put it on autopilot, nothing really happens. And obviously, if nothing really happens, then you're not going to get improving results. I mean, like some of my clients have told me that their business have gone up 25, 30% in the first year. And, like for example, Dr. Downey, she told me that her business went up 25%, the first year she hired us, and it continues to grow. So obviously, for you to see improvement in your business, you need to have a plan. And because we have a large team of 150 people, we can execute on that plan, and that's what we do. But you need to be involved in it. You need to monitor it. So whether you work with us or somebody else, insist on a plan, set goals, see how well you're doing against the plan, and then revise the plan, because times change, opportunities change, technologies change. So obviously you have to keep evolving the plan. Typically, I say, for you to see significant result, you need to give it an year. But just giving it an year and closing your eyes is not going to do anything. You need to be engaged. You need to look at, the work that's being done on a monthly basis. Track the metrics, the visitors, the keyword rankings, the calls. See if things are improving. But typically, what I find is, by the end of the first year, 90% of our clients never leave us because they just know that it's working for them, and the amount of money they spend, brings back, $5, $10, $20, $30 for every dollar they spend. Obviously, the multiple varies industry to industry. In some verticals, it might be $30. In other verticals, it might be only $10. And that again comes down to competition and the type of doctor you are and where you are located. But as long as there's a significant multiple, you should focus on it and build on it, because marketing is something where if you do it right, it's going to grow your business, because every other expense, whether it's rent or employee pay, usually is not going to make you money unless you have marketing to bring in the patients. I already touched on this. Make sure it's working for you. Look at your reports. Look at the number of calls. Listen to the calls if you have to. See how well things are going. Compare, where you are today versus 1 year ago. Don't compare it month to month, because I think things can fluctuate, in a short term. Seasonal effects, political things can affect people's moods. But if you compare every 6 months or every 12 months, you should see patterns. You should see improvements. So the upcoming presentation. So the next one is going to be on branding. We're going to spend some time talking about how do you build a brand. Having worked with quite a few doctors, I actually wrote a book on branding, and if you're interested, I could send you that book along with the 8 Steps book on how to dominate internet marketing. So I have 2 books. So the branding webinar will talk about a lot of what's in the book. And it's going to talk about, how do you discover your brand? How do you live your brand? And it's not complicated. It's not something that you need to go to school to figure out. To me, branding is all about, really doing what makes you unique, what makes people love, or why people already love you, just, being that and talking about that and bringing it out. And at the same time, being aware of who else is out there and what else is going on, so you can differentiate and you can stand out. The subsequent presentation is going to be on reputation management and social media. Here we're going to talk about, Facebook and Twitter and newsletters and various tools you can use to enhance your marketing. Now, social media by itself is not going to help you, because people don't go to Facebook to research which dentist they should go see. However, Facebook is the new phone. It's how people keep in touch, and that's what they check on a daily basis. It's a great way to keep in touch with existing patients, your fans, and then influence future patients through them. So it's a great way to do, viral/social marketing. So we're going to talk about best practices and what we have learned and what we do and so forth. Reputation management, like I talked about, alluded to earlier, but we're going to go into in depth, is really important for SEO. Plus, it can drive traffic on its own. Like I said, some clients get 1,000+ people, even 2,000-3,000 people a month just from Google Places, and 50 to 60 appointments a month. So that's just Google Places, and you have Yelp and City Search and many other sites. So you could really benefit from these sites and reputation management as a whole if you focus on it. The third and the last presentation is going to talk about automated marketing, content marketing, and analytics. So automated marketing is the idea that you can talk to 1,000 people as a group, but still personalize what they see depending on their interests and their desires, without doing it one-on-one. Content marketing is the idea that at the end of the day, content is at the heart of everything. So one piece of content can be leveraged in multiple ways. And again, we'll give you examples of how that can be done. through social, through SEO, through automated marketing to maximize results. And finally, analytics is really, 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 really important because big numbers are useless if those numbers don't turn into new patients and new phone calls. So analytics is all about connecting the dots, looking at what's working, what's not, looking at trends, looking at where the issues are, looking at what's getting worse versus what's getting better, and then focusing on the things that matter to improve results. Right. So finally, I want to open it up for questions and answers. And I also want to share with you the special offer. So anybody who's interested, I will personally review your digital marketing with my team and spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes sharing with you a plan that we think can be done, in a 12-month period and so forth. So we'll tell you what you can do and how you can, take your marketing to the next level if you feel that's something you need help with. And typically we charge for this, but for anybody who listens to this video or who actually attends this video, we would offer it for free as long as you mention it. Thank you very much, and let's open it up for questions and answers.
Yes, thank you, Naren, and we will continue with our discussion segment. Let me pose the first question to you. About a year from now, we will be relocating. What should we do in advance so that our ranking won't drop to the bottom? We experienced this problem in the past as we moved 6 years ago. The only change we made was our address.
It's an excellent question, but it kind of goes back to the heart of how SEO works, right? Because SEO is about competing with people in your local area. So when you relocate, your local area changes, right? So if in your old local area you had 50 people who were competing against, and now in the new area you have 200, obviously that's going to have an impact, right? Also, Google pays attention to location. So let's say if you have links that are coming from Houston because you used to live in Houston, obviously that's going to help you rank in Houston. But now that you're moving to, let's say, Washington, D.C., those old links that were links from sites from Houston may not help you as much. So my strategy always is, be proactive. Don't wait for the move to happen. Start, building your website, building your marketing way in advance. Because if you do that, then it's going to start helping you. So, make sure that the website's updated with the new information, the new address, the new location. Make sure your Google Places is updated. Make sure you're starting to work on link building. Make sure, all of the issues in your website is fixed. Because a lot of times, people don't realize they have issues because they never looked at it. Like, for example, somebody that I know went from 0 to 1 million, and his business grew 45% last year, and he's a client of ours. And then 40% the year before, he was doing extremely well for a brand new dentist, and he's in the top 1%. But all of a sudden, he started seeing his numbers drop, and when we did some analysis, some other person had copied his website wholesale, and then we had to contact Google and tell Google and contact him, send him a legal letter and all of that stuff to stop him from doing that. So sometimes things can happen that has nothing to do with you. So obviously when you're relocating, you need to pay attention to all the details again and make sure that you are optimized and you are set up properly.
Okay, thank you, Naren. We'll move on to the second question. I heard Google started punishing people for bad links. Can you tell me more about it?
Absolutely. So, there's an entire industry that obviously wants to do well in SEO, and some of them, their approach is find a way to kind of fool Google, find a way to kind of hoodwink Google, and I never believed in it, but there's a lot of people who do that, right? So obviously they have all kinds of techniques when it comes to link building that's all about fooling Google, and Google finds out and punishes them. So for example, Google, there are sites where you can pay money and get a link. Now Google knows about these sites, and if you get a link from one of those sites, not only is that site affected, you might be affected because it's called a bad neighborhood. So Google will provide tools through Google Webmaster Tools, for example, that tells you what the bad sites are that are linking to you. you need to do something about it. And because we actually have real people, working on behalf of our clients and broken into teams, we, for example, monitor these bad links on a monthly basis and remove them every single month. And then we track it and we stay on top of it. So yes, it's very, very true that not only good is important, but also making sure that you don't get penalized is important. So, so removing bad links, paying attention to it is extremely important. I've seen this again and again. One of the things I'm proud of is in 7+ years working with doctors, we have hardly ever been punished. And except for one instance I can think of, every single time our ranks stayed. And our clients, even today, continue to rank for hundreds of keywords. So it's really important to, pay attention to best practices and not get punished. And bad links is one of those ways you need to pay attention to.
Okay, we'll move on to the third question. What is average search rank? I see this in my Google Analytics. Can you explain further?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was showing in a Google Webmaster Tools, Google will tell you the keywords you're ranking for. And one of the things it'll tell you is how many people looked at that keyword and what's the average search rank. So we, for example, track it. So here is a keyword, dermatologist Montclair, New Jersey, 170 people looked at it, and the average rank is 1. What 1 means is across all of Google's products. In some cases, it might be 2, and some cases 3, but overall, on average, this particular client is ranking close to 1 on average. So you need to look at that. One of the mistakes people do is they Google themselves and they look at what they see. And that used to work when Google results were consistent, meaning they didn't change from device to device, location to location based on search history. Now, because it's changing, you want to log into Google Analytics and find out what your average ranking is. And if your average ranking is low, like 5 or 6 or 15, do something about it. But if it's high, like 1 or 2 or 3, you're in a pretty decent shape. Also, you need to look at how popular the keyword is. Here is a keyword searched by 170 people. You know what? That keyword is better for you than another keyword, let's say chemical peel SX, that's only searched by 5 people. So you need to kind of know how popular a particular keyword is. In the old days, people guessed and they just thought some things are important. But now, Google will tell you exactly how many people are searching for a keyword. Another point I made earlier, I just wanted to show you that because I'm on this report, is most people, 9 out of 10 people will type in the doctor's name before they come and see the doctor. So here is an example where they are typing in the doctor's name, and 250 people in 1 month just typed in the doctor's name. And then some people type in reviews and bio, and some people type in the doctor's name, the city name. So in this particular case, even 600 people or more are typing in the doctor's name. So it's really, really, really important to manage the reputation and make sure all those reviews are taken care of, because if those reviews say a bad story and instead of having 4 average or 4.5 average, you have 2 average, that's going to hurt your business.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. How important are reviews? Do they influence purchase decisions?
You know what? That's what I just touched on. I'm glad you asked that question. So absolutely, they are important. And like I was showing here, 600 people typed in a particular doctor's name, and they all did because they want to see what the reviewers have to say about the doctor before they gave money to the doctor. So, or use the services of the doctor. So you want to pay attention to it because you don't want to ignore 600 people and their decisions. You want to make sure those 600 people are choosing you versus choosing somebody else because they don't like your reviews. So reviews are for real, and the fact that 9 out of 10 people research the doctor before they go and see the doctor is true. And that's why you see in the numbers, sometimes even 600 people looking at a particular doctor before they, every month.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. I heard people don't leave voicemails or fill contact forms these days. Is this true? What do you notice?
You know what? Absolutely correct. So when we track calls, depending on the client, we have the permission. We are able to record the calls, and a lot of times when our clients do that, they notice that when they don't answer a phone, and some clients miss even 20% of the calls, that those people don't leave voicemails, never call back. Now with the call tracking system, you know their numbers, so you can follow up. But more importantly, you might even see patterns, or most of the calls are getting this between these hours, and you can fix it. So it's a really, really important thing, and this is what I believe in, having a plan, looking at your numbers and continuously improving. It's a really important thing for you to pay attention to your calls and your call tracking, and then learn from the data, learn from what it's telling you and fix the issues. And you are absolutely right. 95% of the people, at least the ones that we notice, don't leave voicemails. So it's really important that you answer the phone during office hours, and if you do miss a call, to call them back right away using your call tracking software.
Okay. And we have a last question for you. I have 2 Google profiles. What can I do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to merge it, because otherwise your reviews are going to get split, and people are going to get confused, and Google is going to get confused, and your traffic is going to go down, and your visitors are going to go down, and your patient flow is going to go down. So what you do is you claim the second profile, and sometimes Google will send a new PIN to your address, or maybe make an automated call, and you can grab the PIN that way. And then if you're working with a marketing firm like ours, have our team, use that PIN code to claim that profile and either delete it or merge it. If it has reviews, then I would suggest merging it. If it doesn't, then getting rid of it and just focusing on your primary review profile. And then you need to monitor it, because from time to time these issues will crop up, and if you're not monitoring it, months could go by without you doing something about a problem. So we, for example, monitor this on behalf of our clients, and then we report on all of this. So for example, we send a weekly update that talks about these types of things that we dealt with, or that we had to encounter, and that we worked on.
Okay, Naren. Thank you, Naren, for joining with us on our EOA. And but very sadly, we will have to say goodbye to you. Anything else you would like to add, Naren?
No, I hope this was beneficial. And if you have any questions, you can email me at narain@equa.com, or call me. That's my direct line, 877-249-966. And obviously, if you want us to look at your digital marketing and give you a assessment where we can share with you what you need to do, and give you a plan, let us know, and we'll do it at no cost, and we'll take care of it for you. So best of luck. And when we started Entrepreneur.MD, we saw a huge need where we could help doctors learn about business type topics and improve their business. So obviously, in addition to the one I'm doing on marketing, we have other experts who do education on air sessions on various other topics. So obviously, Tilini, as you host many of those webinars, I'm sure we both would like for all of you who are listening to this to also attend those webinars, and visit the website, and read the articles. We publish a ton of information on a daily basis. I mean, literally, we publish thousands of pages. So hopefully you get value from Entrepreneur.MD, and looking to see you one more time at a future webinar.
Yes, thank you, Naren. And thank you all for joining in on the EOA with us today. We will be sending this video so you can share it with your friends. And we will also keep you informed of the next webinar within a few weeks. And the topic for the next webinar is branding, discovering communication and living your brand. And thank you very much once again for joining with us. And I wish you a very good day. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Tilini, and thank you, everyone. Bye for now.